Hello and welcome to Take Control of Your Community, how early choices can empower positive engagement. With myself, Ashley Riot. Hi, hello. I am the social media and community relations person at Cloudhead Games, creators of award-winning and absolutely awesome Pistol Whip VR. Prior to this, I was the communications person for Audio Trip, and I've been creating communities both online and off for folks to connect with one another for about a decade with a focus on VR communities since 2018. So nice to meet you. In my talk today, I'm going to go over a little bit more about my origin story, talk about some of the basic elements of community, including what community even is, as well as some universal elements of community that you'll see in kind of every community that exists out there that you have a little bit of control over when building out your own. This will all be framed by examples and insights into the choices we make with the Pistol Whip community, with some additional examples of how those elements might be reflected in communities elsewhere, either in your present communities or those you plan to build in the future. Okay? Epic. So let's dive right into my origin story. So in the spring of 2018, I began using VR to learn to walk again after a life-changing discectomy freed me from depending on a walker. I started by playing a single song in Beat Saber a day. Under the supervision of my surgeon, of course, they said it was fine. And then two, when I could play for about an hour, I started streaming my progress, and alongside it, my passion for VR, to my friends who didn't have the technology. I wanted them to see the difference it was making in my life. It wasn't long before I found myself at the helm of a rapidly growing and increasingly successful Twitch community, one I had no real intentions of ever starting in the first place. This was when the fraud police began their nightly audits. Faceless humanoids wearing orange jumpsuits and yellow vests lined with fat bands of reflective silver tape. Despite not having a mouth, they always had the same message for me. We've been alerted of someone happy when they don't deserve it. A fraud. We're here to reclaim your fake life. You've probably felt this way. Most of us have. Like you're not good enough, or like you're not worth it. But most importantly, like you don't belong. For a million reasons we tell ourselves every day. But communities can combat this. They have the ability to give people a place to belong and connect, but also an opportunity to help their members understand they're worthy of that belonging and connection in the first place. I start with a story not only because I believe a sense of belonging is powerful and can help us to create more meaningful places to connect, and this belief underscores every choice I make in the communities that I help build, but also because I believe belonging and connection are the defining characteristics of community itself. And what I mean by this is that a community doesn't become a functioning community until the people who belong to it understand and then agree that they belong to it. So in this way, community is a commitment or an agreement, one that comes after potential members seek out, understand, and then accept the requirements or responsibilities of said community. And so knowing what this process of community discovery, evaluation, and commitment looks like for your community or for your potential community members is one of the keys to building powerful and engaging communities early on. So let's take a look at what this process might look like step by step for potential Pistol Whip community members, starting with community discovery. In any community, your first step is to figure out why you want folks to connect. Why do you want to connect people? And usually the people within a given community have some sort of shared interest, value, or belief, which is often the driving force that first sparks them to seek other members to connect with. So for me, the shared interest is Pistol Whip. That's why I want to connect people. And Pistol Whip is an unstoppable action rhythm FPS, available for Oculus Quest, PC VR, and PSVR. It's an abstract, on-rails rhythm shooter with heavy action film inspiration. Players move through cinematic scenes, which is how we refer to our levels, to a breakneck soundtrack to become the ultimate action hero legend. Our community members seek us out after they've played Pistol Whip, or because they know someone who plays Pistol Whip, or because they're interested in trying Pistol Whip and want to know more. So knowing where this spark gets ignited, or where the seed is first planted, is imperative in setting up appropriate signposts or calls to action for those seeking more connection or looking for your community. After a potential community member has discovered your community, they'll begin the community evaluation phase, which is where the potential member evaluates your community. And they ask themselves questions like, is this community meeting my expectations? Is it doing what I hoped? Think about the reason that you're trying to get people together. Does what you're doing community side make sense for your overarching purpose? We get together with the Pistol Whip community to play Pistol Whip and to test it, or to play other VR games. They'll also ask themselves, is it doing what it was promised? Or is it doing what it promised me? If you tell people to join the Discord to participate in weekly challenges and talk to developers, are there weekly challenges for them to participate in and a place for them to talk to developers? They also ask themselves, what's expected of me? in order to be accepted into this community. Things like, what are the rules here? How should I act if I want to garner approval? Or what behaviors, if any, make me unwelcome? They also want to know what they need to do. In other words, how can I be a contributing and meaningful member? And are those expectations and responsibilities in order to be that worth it for what I'm getting out of it? And if I can't do exactly what's expected, are there paths until I'm ready for those responsibilities? But ultimately what they're asking is, do I belong here? Is this a place that I am wanted and a place that I want to be? And once a potential community member feels they've gathered the info they can, either by exhausting what's available or exhausting their patience during the evaluation stage, whichever comes first, they enter the final stage, which is the community commitment stage. And this is where they decide if the community is worth it to them, and they commit to being a member under the guidelines as they understand them, or they decide it's not, and they do not make a commitment to join your community. So without people wanting to be in your community, you don't have a community. And this is why you'll hear me say often that you build communities with people, not for them, and why I believe it's an agreement or a commitment. It's also important to remember that a commitment to being a contributing, engaged member today is not a commitment to be one forever. Members may go in and out of evaluation and commitment phases, or commit to different levels of contribution if your community allows for that throughout their membership and throughout the lifetime of your community, and this is totally fine. So, now that you know why you want to connect people, you've got a shared interest, value, or idea, or in my case, the most awesomest game in the world ever, Pistol Whip, and what questions potential members are asking of you and themselves, it's time to set up our communities to answer as many of those questions as easily as possible for potential members so they feel like they belong, and so they feel like connecting to others with the same value, interest, or idea is rewarding. There's some universal elements to community, some elements that all communities have in common, and I want to talk about a few of those today that we can make thoughtful choices about when setting up ours that'll help us to set the tone and encourage the type of engagement you want to see long term, while also answering those questions potential community members are asking themselves before committing to our communities, starting with our community headquarters. So community headquarters are the primary place that your community connects. And having a hub that's dedicated to community business, information, news, and events is an incredible tool that you can use at every step of your community. It's incredibly scalable. And they matter because you can use them as a call to action, a place for centralized information and resources, as well as a place to connect with your community directly. So the Pistol Whip community headquarters are Discord. We have an official Discord server, so you can find us a lot of places online, but for the most concentrated group of official Cloudhead folks and news, the Discord is where it's at, which by the way is at pistolwhip.gg or discord.gg/cloudheadgames, BT-dubs, if you want to check us out. And so like I said, it's my call to action, always. Make sure that in your call to action, you tell people where to find your community headquarters and what to expect there. Anywhere that I possibly can, at the end of patch notes, blog posts, developer vlogs, YouTube videos, and social media bios, in-game if possible, wherever I can possibly convince the dev team to put a link, I'm sure to link to our Discord invite, which again, pistolwhip.gg or discord.gg/cloudheadgames, BT-dubs. And I let people know to join or stay up to date, talk to other heroes, ask questions, connect with the devs. That's the way to do it. You can also use it to present your community expectations really clearly, and you can do that with rule sections to tell potential members what kind of behaviors you expect and what isn't tolerated. If you want to get extra spicy, make sure they know who's responsible for enforcing said rules and what happens if you don't follow them, including the steps to rule enforcement, including what causes you to be exiled or excommunicated from the community, as well as clear levels of membership and what's expected to attain them. Remember that everyone wants to belong and not everyone has the same thing to offer. So in the Pistol Whip community, there's clear roles for players that score-wise are considered top players. There's clear roles for people that are just very active and they offer a lot of information and resources. There's clear roles for content creators. There's lots of roles and paths to acceptance in the community. Think about what's valuable to you. If engagement's valuable to you, make sure that you reward that. You also can use it as a centralized information and resource hub. This can save you a ton of time with FAQ sections, indexes, or links to external places that are pertinent to your community. You get asked the same question a lot, throw it into an FAQ section and just funnel people there. It saves you a ton of time. You can also use it for announcements, for events and milestones, and other opportunities to connect with your community, especially if you're doing it directly. And so again, this is a place to connect with your community directly. Again, communities are only as strong as the commitments that make them up, and our own commitments are among those. So be the community you wish to see in the world, lead by example. And we can also use our community headquarters to strengthen other elements of community, other universal elements of community, such as member identity. And so member identity is how we refer to our community members and how they refer to themselves. This is important because it sets the very first standard for how we as developers of Pistol Whip think of our players, how they should think of themselves, and how they should think of one another. It's also important because words and labels matter, and so do people. So you want to think about how you want your community to feel, what you want them to identify with, and then choose terms and titles and labels that reinforce and promote those feelings of positivity, or in our case, heroism. So with the Pistol Whip community, we want our players to feel like unstoppable action heroes when they're playing the game, and that is no different in the Pistol Whip community. You are an action hero when you join the Pistol Whip community. And quite literally, the default role in our Discord is action hero. And our special roles kind of try and follow the same sort of heroic and empowering verbiage. And this is super intentional because, like I just mentioned, words matter. This is how our community members communicate with one another every day. This is the label they apply to one another. And trust and believe, it makes my job much easier when everyone in the community accepts that everyone else is a mother frackin' epic legendary hero who deserves nothing but respect for their feats. We also try and reinforce this identity elsewhere. So like I open all official discourse like patch notes and official blogs and thank you speeches and things like that with some form of hero. And even in my one-on-one discourse, if I'm talking to my moderators or if I'm writing a guide for them or if I'm sending out merch or swag to somebody one-on-one and putting a personalized note, I make sure to refer to them as a hero because they are. Another universal element of community I want to talk about is symbolism. And what this is shared symbols or icons that have meaning within your community. And these are super important for a lot of reasons as well. For one reason, they are a way that members communicate with one another. And it's also how they strengthen their own membership identity. Symbols are also incredibly effective and efficient communicators, which means they're really fun. And what I mean by effective and efficient is that they communicate complex ideas very quickly and they transcend language barriers. So because of this, they easily get latched onto. And when I say latched onto, I mean it's very easy for these symbols to be repeated very quickly. So being thoughtful or mindful about what you amplify and what you also repeat in your community can help set the tone for your engagement long term. And so I'll take a look at that kind of in the Pistol Whip community, take a look at some of the symbolism there. Every community is going to have symbolism explicitly baked in. Like with Pistol Whip, you'll find it baked in our design. Marketing materials have imagery and logos kind of across expansions that work as symbolism. You can also find it kind of in-game, in enemy and level design as well. And even game elements like trophy or achievement icons and UI elements, so like modifier and difficulty icons, things like that, trophies, are pretty much perfect for repeated imagery and symbol copy pasting. And so by handpicking the type of symbolism you repeat, I choose very positive, empowering S+, the crown, you're breathtaking, to react to posts with, to be engaging with. I can steer the direction of the types of symbolism and symbols our members appreciate. So these are the types of things you'll find me reacting with or repeating, and it's always going to be positive or the things that I want other people to use. And then there's also going to be a little bit of off-brand symbolism that we employ, and it starts to get a little scary like this. So this is kind of a play on the popular culture emote of 100. In Pistol Whip, a perfect score is 200, but again, 100 in popular culture means perfect, you're doing great, it's an awesome positive thing. 200 means you've got a perfect score. So again, very positive, very empowering, a little bit off-brand, but this does require insider knowledge of our scoring system, which strengthens membership identity, which makes people feel like they belong when they understand and use this symbol. But wait, there's more. So when members parrot or repeat the behavior that you want, you have a chance to reinforce desired behavior yet again. We have a You're Breathtaking trophy that I turned into an emote in the Discord, which is our community headquarters. I use that to react to people all the time. And so one of the community members made a No You're Breathtaking emote in order to reply to somebody using the official emote. And as you can see, it's just a simple mirror of the official icon, but no matter. It instantly became an official icon in the Discord server, and people just parrot these back and forth to each other now. I'll also latch on to memes or symbolism which promote positive engagement, even if it's not official branding, which again, this is a really scary line to walk. So when members create content, I'll share and promote stuff that reinforces that direction that I want to take with the community, even if it's not official. This allows members to contribute to the community in measurable and meaningful ways, which makes them feel like they belong and they're appreciated because they do, and they are. It acts as an invitation to continue the behavior into the future, and invitations are powerful things. They encourage people, even if those invitations are not accepted. Also, seeing that officially promoted encourages those who haven't engaged or contributed but are on the fence and want to try it to do so. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about before we left, one final universal element of community is community narrative. And this is super important to me, but I just have a little bit of time left. But this is one of my favorite things in community. And this is our story. It's the story of us. It's the story of your community and you. And it starts as soon as our first member decides they're one of us, and it's being co-written by us and them to this day in real time. And I think that's super awesome. And it matters because it happens whether we want it to or not. As surely as time passes, your community narrative will continue to be written. It's also important because these chapters are what is shared with new members and repeated and revered among long-term members to create your history and your legacy. And so there are some chapters that are common throughout communities, particularly brand communities like ours. Chapters like your community's inception, the start of your community narrative, chapter 1. And oftentimes this will be things like when your IP launched. And some universal chapters might also include things like content updates or hotfixes. They might also include launches on other platforms. And sometimes these chapters have to occur due to the passage of time, so things like IP anniversaries or product milestones. And then lastly, there's like adjacent events that don't necessarily have to happen, so things like meetups and tournaments, conferences, or things like Devcom, what we're doing here today. And these are opportunities that happen over time to connect with your community and to co-write chapters with them about things that you both want to connect about. And it's definitely not lost on me that all the heroes in the audience today are doing that right now, co-writing this chapter of our community narrative with me. So thank you, heroes. You're breathtaking. I love you. I cannot wait to talk about this in the Discord with you later. And I am so freaking hyped to write future chapters together with you for Cloudhead, Pistol Whip, and everything that we have planned now and into the future. And speaking of the future and the inevitable passing of time, with that, I am out of it. Time, that is, but definitely not things to say. So if you would like to connect with me or the other devs at Cloudhead more, be sure to, you guessed it, join the Discord, which is right there at the bottom, discord.gg/cloudheadgames or pistolwhip.gg to connect with myself or other Cloudhead devs. Also, I am just the first of 3 Cloudhead talks this year at Devcom, so please do not miss my super ultra best friends who also have sessions talking about the best game ever. You can catch Cameron Altman, gameplay lead, tomorrow at 10 a.m. PST, talking about some of the developmental pillars they employed when creating Pistol Whip. And then on Wednesday from our art team, Jonathan Hackett, art lead, and Sarah Rowland, 3D generalist, both will be here talking about the art and inspiration behind Pistol Whip. So yeah, thank you. You're heroes. You're breathtaking. We love you. You are the real MVPs. We cannot wait for you to see what's next. See you in headset.